What's up, everyone? You are listening to the Rival and Queen podcast. We're so happy you're back. It's Thursday. This is Ashley.
I'm Sarah. We're in the virtual studio.
We're back. We're back at home. You know what? I'm still happy we get to do what we do, Sarah. So I don't really care where we are, but we're doing it. Nothing is stopping us.
Every day the show's going on.
If we could only do it every day, that would be a blast.
You're right. We don't do it every day. I'm on another level. And you're right though, because I'm still on a high from last Saturday when we had our virtual wine tasting event.
Me too.
Is like, I'm not in the same like Zoom fatigue I was in the first lockdown, but like,
well, we haven't been doing it as much.
No, we haven't been doing it as much, but it was like, we had 100 people on with us on Saturday night for the virtual wine tasting. And I have not seen most of those people and seen their faces and been able to like talk to them live in months. And it was just so, it like warmed my heart. I had so much fun.
It was so much fun. And really the biggest joy that I get from it is just knowing, I don't know if people sometimes like to hear us or like what we do, but I feel like in those circumstances, we are entertaining people in some respect with the wine, just with our shenanigans. And that makes me so happy that a few messages, people said that they forgot that they were in this lockdown here in Nova Scotia for a few hours. And that made me so happy that people could just let loose and be entertained.
I know. And it's something like you said, like I always look forward to it, but I was kind of blown away by how much fun and how like just like enthralled with it I was. And yeah, when we saw those messages come through that people were like, I forgot this was going on for a few hours. That was so nice. Like so wonderful.
I know, it's so fun. And it was just fun. Like we have fun doing it. And I'm just so happy. Who knows? There might be more coming down the pipelines there.
Who knows? And big shout out to Allie from Luvo. We love her so much. She led us through the wine tasting. She did such a great job. So we're so grateful that we could have so many people there. It was so nice. Oh,
yeah, Allie, Harvest, Rhoda. It's it is like a family and community, and just seeing what people have tagged us in over the last few days after the event that I didn't see. I was like, oh my God, people really had fun and enjoyed it and shared their enthusiasm for it, Sarah, on social media. So that makes us so happy. So thank you everyone for joining us.
We love you so much. Oh, I'm just still on such a high from it. And also we had the most fun ever. Like I felt like I had attended a real life party because after we finished, Ash and I had like a solid dance party. Like we
had to shut it down. There was still probably 20, 30 people on there. And then I was like, okay.
You weren't like that. I was like, okay, we're leaving now. Goodbye. And then initially you were like, why did you shut it down so fast? And
well, I just didn't know if we didn't get like a proper to goodbye. I think we just like cut the cord because it was getting too wild.
Well, it wasn't that. It was like, I realized, I was like, I'm drunk right now. And I was like, so are you. I was like, we can't stay on.
Also, I grabbed my phone and I started doing an Instagram live. There might have only been like 12 people on there, which I deleted after, but
well, actually, I know some people watched it. Erica told me today that
she was on there. I did see. What did she think? Was she like, what were you guys doing? She thought it was great.
I didn't even know we had one going. So
well, I just had it kind of on the side so people could catch like the end of the after party if they hadn't been there with us live. Anyway, great time. Loved it.
And I just want to shout out the Luvo Cold Press Red was, I think, the hit of the event and is the hit of tonight too. Like I've been loving it.
People were shocked, I think, Sarah, because a lot of people have tried I know definitely the rosé by the sparkling rosé, but where this one's actually a new flavor, it was really a new opportunity for everyone to try it. And they were impressed, I think.
I've only ever had one cold red wine before at Bar Kismet. And then this one, and I'm loving it. Like it's like my new summer jam.
So good. Your dad really liked it too. So don't forget to drop some off to Tim.
I know. He had a great time. I called him today. He thought it was the best time of his life. God love him.
Oh, Dad, amazing.
Saint.
And we're still on a high because we have a guest that we've wanted to have on, Sarah, for so long. And we're so amped. He is in the actual like final finale episode of Masterchef Canada season 7, which is like a group of all the people, Sarah, that have been on previous seasons. So like, what do they call it? An
All-Star edition.
Yeah. I could not find that word in my mind.
It's all right. I got you, girl. I love you.
So we're super amped. We are going to be cheering Andy on from the East Coast so loud in a couple days, the finale.
Yeah, the finale's on Sunday. So today's guest is Andy Hay, the creator of the East Coast Kitchen. If you are not yet familiar, you can connect with Andy on his website, theeastcoastkitchen.com, or on Instagram at Andy's East Coast Kitchen _. And we highly recommend it because he makes the best content, like of how he's making food and recipes. We became hooked last year during lockdown.
Mhm. And it's so funny. On Friday, I was telling Andy this in our conversation on Friday nights. I think that was his first one that he said that he's done, which is an Instagram live. He's cooking. It's Friday night. We're in lockdown. And I wasn't even making what he was making. I was making something different, but I had it propped up in my kitchen. And he's just very entertaining. His wife, Jess, is coming in and out. She's
Evil
telling
producer
him,
Jess.
evil producer Jess, she's telling him he's being too loud because his daughter said she can't sleep. And he's just like, whatever, it's showbiz, baby. I think that's what he said. And then Jeff and I sat down to eat our dinner, and he was still cooking and prepping. And I just kept it on the table to watch because I was so entertained. It was so good.
He does such a good job. And like we talk about this a lot in the episode, but he just makes food so approachable and fun. And it's like, it's cool when you see him doing it live because you're like, oh, this is actually like the process and what it takes. And you just, sometimes when you're alone in your kitchen, you get in your head, you're like, is this insane? Is this actually how you do it? So it's nice to be able to follow along, like watch someone when they're doing it
Mhm.
live. My favorite part of this well, not my favorite part, but one of the parts I loved hearing about in this episode is actually like when they recorded MasterChef this season, because he said it was last July. And just like hearing about the psychology behind reality TV shows and like what the producers do to contestants to, I feel like make them crazy.
Definitely.
It's wild.
They want that drama and to get in their heads. And I think for them to be fully immersed in the competition and what's happening. So that really does, they know how to play with your mind very, very, very well.
But like, I'm wondering how they actually plan it and set it up. Like, they must hire psychologists to be like, how do we push people close to their breaking point so they're on edge all the time and start to freak out? Because I remember, and we talked about this after we recorded the episode, but when we had Katie Fenn on, like last fall, I think she was on The Bachelor Canada, and I've heard her talk about before that when she was on The Bachelor, they weren't allowed to like watch TV, they weren't allowed to read books, they weren't allowed to write, like they couldn't have a journal, they weren't allowed to work out regularly, like however they wanted. So they basically like cut off all the tools you might use to like get your angst out or anger.
Something
I
like
think
that happened. Well, I went to the National Ballet School in Toronto when I was 10.
yes.
So a long, long time ago. And I was 10. Looking back, I lived in Toronto for 6 weeks at the National Ballet School by myself. And
Crazy.
same thing, you weren't allowed to call your family for the first, I can't remember, at least a week or two. And then you were allowed to call, and you were allowed to have one call. And then you weren't allowed for your family to come visit. Like, it was a progression throughout the weeks. But I remember like crying and being a little bit homesick one day because I actually got sick. Like, I had heat stroke or the flu or something. And that's like torture to a child. So I feel like, why do they do this to us?
I have, well, and you weren't on reality TV. Like, that's crazy as a child. I think that's weird.
I know, but it's like they want, and you don't know at that age what really competition is like until you're older. You know what I mean? So the fact that they're still doing this when Andy's in his 30s, I don't know
No, I think
why.
that's like, I want to research like the psychology behind how they design reality TV shows because I feel like it's a science.
Like, are sports the same way? You know what I mean? I don't know.
No, I don't think sports are the same way. I think in sports, they want people to be at their peak, at their prime. They want them to use all their outlets to show up in their best self. I think in reality TV, they're trying to like degrade your like mental stability so that you freak out.
Do they think it's distractions? Is that why they, I don't know.
I think it's like not giving you outlets. Like when you don't have, like, I know for me, like I
But when you just
meditate.
make something up, you see, they couldn't stop you from meditating.
No, but like if I couldn't journal, that would be hard. I mean, I would find other ways, but like I think it would still be a struggle. Like I write every day. If I couldn't like write, that would be really hard. Yeah.
I know Andy mentioned Big Brother too, talking about
Oh yeah.
reality shows, because that's a crazy one because you have no phone, no TV. They don't have paper and pen because they're not, they have to like memorize things for competitions. But I would go
But
crazy.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know. So props to Andy for going back a second time on reality
For
TV
more torture.
for more torture. We like can't believe it. And we're so excited to see on Sunday the outcome of the finale. Our fingers are crossed for him. We're so stoked. And this is such a fun episode. We talk all about his experience recording and filming this season. We talk about how he got into cooking and, you know, the work that he's doing today. We also talk about some of his favorite like cookbooks and where he gets his inspiration from and just kind of his journey over the last few years. It's such a great episode.
And what's next for him? He shares kind of what his journey is going to be hopefully like and what he wants to do.
One of the things I related to and I love so much in this episode is he talks about at one point, like in bed reading cookbooks. And I just like when he was saying that, I was resonating so much because I have these 2 Thomas Keller cookbooks ad hoc at home in the Bouchon bakery. And what I love about them is like they're all about technique. So they're literally like these massive books. And I lay in bed reading like how to make pastries and the technique behind them and the history of making breads and different type of breads. And it's like, it's just kind of fascinating. So I loved hearing that's how he started and like started learning about
I
all these
don't read
different
them in
cuisines.
bed, but when I'm sitting down, especially if I'm eating by myself, I do like to flip through a cookbook because I'm thinking about, especially Mandy's. Right now, I'm really into that one that you gifted me, Sarah. I've made, I think, 4 salads from there.
Ooh, mine's on its way. Can't wait. And I can't
Woo-hoo.
wait for Andy's first cookbook, which he
Yeah.
has not announced, but in my mind, I want it to be a thing.
Probably called Andy's East Coast Kitchen.
You know, can't
cookbook.
wait. And we're going to try making the yeasted donuts this week. So stay tuned for that on our Instagram.
Yeah, it was such a fun episode and he's just the best. So definitely listen and watch this Sunday.
Can't wait. All right, let's dive in.
Let's do it. Well, we're so happy to welcome Andy Hay here with us. Whoop, whoop.
Welcome.
I'm honored to be here. I'm so pumped.
Oh
We
my
are
gosh, we're so
amped.
excited. Yeah, we've been kind of like having discussions about getting you on, and now it's just perfect timing because you're in the final in season 7 of MasterChef Canada. So congrats. It's so exciting. And we're so amped that you're here.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't believe that I snuck in there. I still
I know for round 2.
Round 2 back to back. I was just, yeah. This one felt different. I truly never thought it was possible this time around just because there were so many like heavy hitters. Yeah. So I'm still totally dumbfounded that I snuck in there.
And someone else from here as well, another chef and restaurant owner from Halifax was in the top 4.
Top 4. Andrew Curry. He owns a Frite. So he was in the top 4 as well. And then last episode, spoiler coming at people if you haven't watched and still wanted to watch. Andrew was sent home last night. So he didn't make the finale.
He did not, but you did.
But I did.
So you're in the top 3.
Top 3.
And you were in the top 3 last time as well, weren't you?
So this is the first time they've done a 3-person finale. So last time I was top 2. Yeah, so this time it's dialing out 3 people. Yeah, but it's crazy.
Were you guys shocked when they announced that? When they said 2 aren't going to be going home, we're going to actually just send 1 person home? Was that like a sigh of relief?
Like behind the scenes, we're all crazy where we're just like, okay, what do you think is going to happen this episode? We're trying to like piece things together based on clues or hints that we're getting along the way. And then we also know how many film days are left. So we were just like, okay, either this is a double elimination or there's a 3-person finale going on. We were still surprised by it, but it was definitely like in the realm of possibilities that we were just like, it's possible if this is the last episode before the finale.
Okay, because so that's interesting to me. So you guys aren't in the know at all about what's going on when you're filming.
Not at all. Not at all. So the behind the scenes, they keep us on our toes so much because they want the drama. That's the whole thing with this person. Right. It is a cooking competition, but it's a reality TV show first. So they want the drama. They want people kind of on edge. We're totally sequestered. We're in Toronto in July. It's COVID time, so we're even like sequestered from each other. Luckily this time we could call home. Last time we had 10 minutes a week and that was it.
What? Why?
just because they want the drama. They don't want any leaks getting out. They just want the drama. They want to play with your head. They want to see people getting on each other's nerves, and they want to see what people will do under pressure. So
That's
this
so
time,
interesting.
it was crazy. This time was like mental warfare for parts of it. That's what it came down to, just because last time was such a novel experience for everyone, and we're all so doe-eyed in there and being like, oh my god, I can't believe we're here, we're doing it together, we're gonna be best friends forever. And this time all of us have like established something. We know what's on the line. We know that all of us aren't going to be friends. That's not going to happen. So it was much more cutthroat. So that compounded with like all the tricks they're playing on us. By this point in the competition, like you can see it, like I can see it in my eyes. I was like totally dead, so exhausted, and just in a lot of ways just ready for it to be done.
I have to say, when they were tasting your final dish and before they kind of like, tell who's moving on, you looked terrified, like stressed, and I felt stressed watching you.
Yeah. The whole time I find even first season and this season, like I'm fueled by fear where it just, it's fear of embarrassment. That was the whole thing. It's like, I feel like I was more worried about embarrassing myself than I was pushing myself to win, which I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. It's just a look inside of my brain where I was just like, okay, there's a lot of people watching it. Like this season's going to be watched by probably close to 3 million people each episode. Yeah. So you just know, and even worse, my friends are going to be watching. So if I like mess up, I was like, this just could be so embarrassing. There's only really one way out of the show where you look good, is you either make the finale and hopefully win, or you kind of stumble and embarrass yourself and you have to leave the kitchen. So just that fear was always very present for me. And I was so anxious the whole time, the entire time.
Do you find the fear was bigger this time, now that you've built like up Andy's East Coast Kitchen, like this season versus the first time you were on?
Yeah, I feel like last time I truly felt like I didn't know what I was doing, where it was true fear that I'm going to plate something that looks like total dog shit. That was what I was worried about first time around. This time was like, I was still fearful I was going to do that, but I felt like the stakes were higher this time, because my job now is basically trying to encourage home cooks to cook at home. And if I threw up a total like bomb, I thought that could affect my brand. It was more so a concern. It's like, I really didn't want to go out first. Like I felt that would have been overall harmful to my brand if I went first. But if I could go deep, it would only be beneficial. But yeah, it was equally scary for different reasons.
So how long are you sequestered when you guys were filming this?
The whole time. So we got up there. I think this time around we were there for just over a month. The first week was spent just in the hotel, getting COVID tests every other day, just locked in there, not doing anything. We're out by the airport in Mississauga, and I'm just doing like 10-kilometer walks every day, just trying to stay like calm. And then the filming started, and it was super condensed. So we filmed everything in about 3 weeks. And like, just to give context, like the last season we took 8 weeks. So it was so crammed. It was so intense. All the crew, which is usually like your outlet to become like friends with and talk with and feel a little bit normal, they had their masks on, shields on, always 6 feet. So you couldn't get that interaction. So it felt really lonely this time on multiple levels, because the competition was steep. People knew what was on the line competitive wise, that the deeper the competition got, like the more people all separated and like were on their own. So it felt lonely this time.
Oh my God, that's so intense and so insane that it was during COVID and you were there alone. I kind of want to rewind a little bit. And we know that you used to work in tech. I know when we touched base, I think it was last year, you had told us that was your career for a while. And how did you actually transition into becoming a chef?
So I went to university. I did commerce at university. Actually, my dad owned an insurance company. So he was like, if you want to take over this insurance brokerage, it would probably make sense to go learn like what insurance is and give that a try. So for 2.5 years, I was a commercial lines insurance underwriter. And I was very, very bad at it, actually.
Really?
And I knew, exactly. It just wasn't for me. I was like, this isn't a good fit at all. So I quit after 2.5 years, traveled in Southeast Asia with my girlfriend, now my wife. And it was there that I kind of got interested in, I always liked food, but more so the cooking of food, just because there's no division between the food being cooked and the person cooking it. Like, people are on the streets, you have the walks, the fire, the smell, the ingredients, and the action of cooking right there on the street, and you can kind of see what goes into it. Just the speed and the movement really piqued my interest. And then we came home, and this would have been 10 years ago. There wasn't that many options for like Vietnamese food or Thai food. So I was going to the Asian grocers and picking up the ingredients and going on YouTube and doing that, and just kind of doing it at home and having like dinner parties at our house. And then I started working in tech, worked at salesforce.com, which is like a big tech company, doing sales, selling like social media software. But I always in the background was cooking for my friends, and we're having dinner parties, and it was all awesome. I loved it. And I remember like telling my buddy, I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to like quit someday and like try to be a chef. But it just didn't seem possible, because in tech, I was making really good money. I had like golden handcuffs. I was like, how am I going to do this? And then I still remember, it's like such a Gary V moment. I used to listen to a lot.
I love Gary V.
I love him too. I listen to it less now just because he makes me anxious. But I remember his one thing, he was talking about like him wanting to buy, him wanting to buy the football team he always wants to buy. But I remember I was turning 30, and I remember going to work, and I was driving, and he was talking about like how when he turned 30, he realized he was doing the wrong thing. So I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, okay, like when I'm 33, I'm going to do it. I'm going to quit my job, and I'm going to become a chef. I have no idea what that's going to look like, but I'm going to do it. So I have 3 years to make as much money as I can, and then I'm just going to quit. And so then I kind of listened to myself and was like, okay, if you're going to do it at 33, do it now, because then by 33, you have 3 years experience, and like you hopefully will have something rolling. So that kind of like caught myself in my own bullshit. And, but I did it. I talked to my wife. She's been amazing with this and totally supportive. So she's like, go for it. You're miserable. And I really was. I hated my job. I hated it. I also just hated the person I was becoming. It just didn't seem authentic, and it wasn't me. So I quit without having any idea what it was going to look like. Serendipitously, the producers called me from Masterchef because I'd applied the year before. And then I was doing like marketing consulting on the side, went to Masterchef, finished second. And I was like, holy shit, here's an opportunity and a half to like enter this industry. And so then I went for it. I started doing like some food photography on Instagram. I knew that social media was going to be an absolute pillar of whatever I was going to do, just because that was the tech I worked in, was like social media consulting. So I just kind of started showing my journey through this like new career I was doing. Started showing like the house parties I was doing, the corporate events. They started becoming like a thing in itself. So that's kind of how it all transitioned. I owe it all to MasterChef and just the power of Instagram. It was those two things that kind of pushed me into this lane. And still trying to figure it out. I'm not even 4 years in, so I'm still trying to figure it out. I think it's like 3 years actually. So I'm still trying to figure it all out, but just trying not to be scared of any opportunity that comes up, and just being like, you know what, I'm going to do it. Can I swear on here? Is this
yes,
like
you can
swear.
That's so funny that you said that, because we had a conversation with Natasha from the Cure Apothecary, who owns that, the other day. And one of the things she said to us, which really resonated with me at the time, was just like, most people don't have the courage to change their career or to try something different. And I think because she had quite the transformation in her journey, and same thing that you're saying, it's like, even though you don't know what's next, you're just like, you got to be open to it.
Yeah. You got to be open to, just open to the possibilities. If you think if you have that feeling in your gut that just will not go away, you could ignore it, but I feel like that's still going to be there. You're always going to wonder what if. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm just going to chase the dream. I feel like for me, I like obviously come from a very privileged point of view. Like my wife is a lawyer, so it was okay to like kind of take the jump. We knew we were going to be financially okay. But it was still a scary time. Like we lived on one income for almost 2 years. And it was in the beginning days, like we were getting my mom, my wife's mom, our friends, family to babysit our 1-year-old. So for us to go like host these dinner parties in the South End, where my wife, who's like a family lawyer during the day, would be serving for me at these dinner parties. So it was insane. It's so romantic to think back on now, but at the time it was such a grind. It was such a grind.
Evil producer Jess. She's a staple on your Instagram.
Big time. Yeah, big time. She's a fan favorite. But she's been there from day one with it. So it's been fun to include her on the social media side of things too.
No, and it's so nice that you guys are able to do that together. But it's funny when you look back at those moments, because you think about it now and you're like, how do we do that? Like, get through that time. But it's almost better that you don't know like what's coming and what's ahead, because then you just keep going.
Totally. And I think part of it is that if I tried to plan out what this would look like, it would have been just a useless exercise. I think you have to have like I always knew that social media was going to be a major pillar of whatever I was going to do. I knew all along that the ultimate goal, even though I had started like a catering company, the ultimate goal was to really leverage Instagram and become like a content creator. I had no idea what that meant or what it looked like, but just because I had that experience in the background, I was like, that's where I actually have an advantage. Like in the world of food, like there's so many chefs are exponentially better than me, but there's very few, if any, that would have like the level of social media experience that I've had at like the Fortune 500 level. So that was like my advantage, that I only late into this experience kind of stumbled back into and was like, holy shit, like this is where I need to be focusing. Like forget the catering stuff, like go all in on the lane, you know.
Well, and your social media really blew up during lockdown last year when you started you did what was it, 100 days? How did it start? It was 100 days of at home.
Yeah, it was the quarantine kitchen. So we were
quarantine kitchen.
We were in Costa Rica when the world was like shutting down. We were there for 2 weeks, and so this has been like early March, and we're in the airport when basically the world was shutting down. Like all the sports teams are shutting down. Trump closed like travel to Europe. Tom Hanks got COVID. Like all this was happening when we were in the Costa Rican airport. We're like, holy fuck, what is going on? So we got home, and they had the day we got home, there was no like travel restrictions at all. But then the next day they're like, okay, if you just got home, you have to self-isolate. So we were the first people in Nova Scotia really like self-isolating. So I kind of made a joke of it, like, okay, we're quarantining. How is this going to go? Send beer, send food, whatever. And then that first day, I was like, okay, I'm just going to cook something on my Instagram. And I didn't have a plan to call it Quarantine Kitchen. It just came out when I said it. And then so that's how it all started. And then it was fueled by like a couple things. I feel like there's part of me that has a little bit of a chip on my shoulder in this industry, because I just feel like there's a lot of people, because you come through reality TV, you kind of, I don't know if anyone thinks about it, but this is kind of like, at least how I like amp myself up, is that others are going to think you're a joke no matter what, because you came in through like reality TV. So I was almost using that. It's like, well, I'll show you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to see what I can. It started off just being for fun. People were like, this is a great idea. And then it didn't stop. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do this for 100 days. I'm not going to stop doing this. And yeah, I grew my Instagram following from like, I think it was like 11,000. And in the 100 days, it was 25K. So like more than doubled, which was pretty significant.
Crazy. Yeah, that's amazing. Totally nuts. And you've still got so much great momentum from that. You're still always posting great videos. I was on your IG live on Friday, which there was a lot of people on there.
It was crazy. It's been amazing. Like I learned a lot from that whole quarantine experience, because even just the style of filming that I was using on there, it was very like approachable, and people were like, I love this. Like, I feel like I can do this, and it's not like scary. But it's been amazing, the momentum that's continued, and these lives are crazy. I just started those I've never done them before really. But we had like almost 400 people cooking along the whole time. The video still did amazingly well after I posted it. So we're doing another one this Friday night, and it's just a fun thing to do in quarantine, is trying to be like, okay, but right now, the world's pretty scary, and there's literally nothing to do. People are so bored that at least this way, it's like we can be bored together and pour a glass of wine and like cook along, or don't, just like come and watch it if you want to. So it's been great. The momentum's been really, really great.
Well, and you do make it so approachable, because I like love it when your kids are coming in through the videos and stuff. And it is fun, because like I love to cook too, but it's like fun to see your stuff, and just even like where you take pauses and like, you know. things go wrong, and that's okay.
The
Real life.
fire alarm going off.
Fire alarm. Oh my fuck, I was losing it there. Yeah, it's I think that was the secret ingredient, especially for early on, was just like, this is real life. There's nowhere for me to go. Like, I'm gonna do this, and it's real, and there's kids running around, and people love it because everyone's life is a shit show. So to pretend it's not is dumb.
Well, and I also think too, like, and our friends will say this to me sometimes, and to some of our other friends who like to cook, that like they wish they could be a good cook and things like that. And in my mind, I'm like, do you know how many things I've made in my lifetime that I've had to throw out that have gone terribly wrong? Like, that's how you become better, is you make 1,000 things that are probably terrible. And I think that's what's so nice when you're doing these things live, is like, sometimes you'll be like, this didn't turn out. This one wasn't a winner, but it makes it like approachable.
Exactly. And those are the ones that I always, that Jess always chirps me, or at least she like cheers me on, I guess. But it's like the ones that are a terrible experience, where it's like the kids are driving me nuts, I'm in a shitty mood, I don't want to do it, but I do it. Those are the ones that are actually gold, because it doesn't matter about the food. It's like, it's pure entertainment on that one, where those ones get so much more traction than the ones that are like, oh, that was effortless, and that recipe is an awesome one, you should try it. Like, there was no drama in it, but it's just exhausting for me. I'm like, I get it, it's good, like good content, but it's so exhausting.
One of my favorite things that you used to post about was your daughter's lunches when she was going, I don't know if it was to school or preschool, and if she would eat them or not, like what would come back and what would be eaten. And I used to just be like, I wish my dad would have sent me lunches like this. Yeah. Does she still appreciate? I mean, I guess she's not in school, but does she still appreciate it, or does she not? No, she's a tough critic.
No appreciation. She loves dessert, like she loves sweets, but she won't eat anything. I don't know if she's trolling me. I feel like that's where we're at in our relationship right now. I feel like there's a lot of trolling, and like I tease her like crazy, so I feel like I'm just getting it back now.
Like, she knows by not eating that she's getting under her skin.
Exactly. It's like a power move for her. I'm just like, come on. This is how I show this is my love language. Like, let me feed you.
She'll appreciate it someday when she's older.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. I love doing those lunches, but it got to a point in the morning where my wife was like, okay, like, I'm basically trying to get these girls, like both of our girls, out the door, and you're like taking a long time on these lunches. Like, fuck off. Like,
and they aren't eating them.
Yeah, they're not eating them. I get it. It's good content, but like, I'm dying here. Okay. Plate taking.
She comes in with the truth.
Yeah, that's exactly. So funny though. I feel like that, like you said, stroke of genius. It's kind of cool when you follow these ideas when they just hit you, because I do feel like it's made you such a household name, especially on the East Coast and now kind of throughout Canada, where you are so approachable. Like, you've moved out of the reality TV, and you're like literally someone people want to cook with and to learn from. Which is really cool. And so one of the things that I'm super curious about is like, what's next for you now that, like, what are you thinking of next?
Yeah. So there's a lot. There's a lot I think about. So a lot of this, I don't want it to come off as like egotistical, but I'm trying to choose people that I'm like, okay, if there is like a North Star of what I want to do, it's definitely, I will never open a catering company again. I will absolutely never touch restaurants. It's just not for me. I feel like that is a world that you need to know what you're doing in that space, and you have to understand how it works. And I just don't know how it works. So I understand content. That will be forever my push forward. I think what I'm trying to do now is looking at like a model similar to Jamie Oliver, and doing that very specific to Canada. That's like, I'm laser focused exclusively on Canada. We'll see what goes from there. But like early days, I was like, I just want to like really zero in on Halifax and just try to like build a reputation in Halifax. Okay, like that worked. Like Nova Scotia, okay, that seems to be working well. Like Atlantic Canada. So I just like really want to build something in Canada, where it's all about like creating approachable recipes for home cooks to make at home, encourage people to cook more at home. I think there's so many interesting things that can be tied in there, from like a mess, like something I care about, whether that's like environmental concerns, whether that's about like food waste, eating healthier, like all of these things can be are stuff that I'm passionate about and stuff that can be tied in. So that'll be there. But I mean, as far as what does it exactly look like? I think you're going to see continued social media content will be at the forefront of what I do personally. I'm starting to build out a team now a little bit that will help me with some of the recipe development. So the blog is a major focus for this fiscal year. So I'm hiring some people to help me kind of revamp totally my website, take that to the next level. Content production for myself, for brands. I would love to do a cookbook. I actually have a couple conversations going on for a TV show, which is exciting. So it's going to be all content, always anchored in East Coast. Like that'll always be like a content theme. Just like, yeah, but it's all food, travel, family, lifestyle, I guess, is kind of where it's moving to. But I always think it's like a Jamie Oliver. Donna Hay is another big one in the space as well that I really look up to. There's so many amazing people doing it really well. So I'm not necessarily blazing a new trail, but just trying to see, it's like, okay, who's done this, who's done it well, and then just like, let's crush it, let's go.
You're always going to bring your own spin to and stuff anyway, so it's going to be unique to you. But I can like envision your cookbook. Like I'm just like,
and TV show.
Buy it. Yeah, totally.
I can see the TV show 100%.
Yeah,
we'll just put that out there for you.
That's all, just out into the universe. That's all it needs to be. Just see what happens.
Well, and we love hearing this because it's like so fun to watch you, even over the past year when we last chatted, just to see like the things that have come to fruition since then. It's just like so nice to, we're both in Halifax, and to see people as reference points and just how they're growing their brand and business. It's awesome.
It's amazing to see just the movers and shakers out here, like out east. It's amazing to watch different people that are just doing cool stuff. I find it fascinating, like people doing stuff in media, just because with media now, it's like you can be local, but it doesn't have to be local. You can get people from all over the world, all over the country. And there's some like people in media here doing some really interesting stuff. So it's, I love it out here, and it's fun to see people just making noise.
I love that too. Okay, I have a question. I want to know what your favorite thing is to cook, what your favorite and least favorite things are to cook.
So the favorite one's tough. It's really tough. I feel like it depends on the day so much. Like there's something very powerful of like being on a beach and like doing a lobster boil. Like that to me is as good as it gets. Like get a nice cold beer.
So East Coast.
It's so East Coast. Like there's something there with that. I recently made donuts, and they really, like, baked goods was something that I've really dove deep into after my first time on Masterchef. Like I fell in love with baking, and there's very few things more satisfying to like give someone than like a freshly baked or fried donut. It is one of the great pleasures of the world. And like in life, unless you're making them, there's very few periods in your life where you'll ever be presented a fresh donut. And to eat one fresh when it's just out of the fryer and it's still soft and warm is like, it's fucking awesome. So to give that to someone is like, you feel like the other day I made them, and I could see my neighbors are in their backyard, and they have like 2 teens, and I feel like it's a hard time with lockdown. So I just like put it on the back deck, and I was like, get those. You guys need to eat those right now. And it's just like such a satisfying to make.
Okay, your daughters must like the donuts.
Yes, they do. They do. Yeah, they love the donuts, the cake, the cookies. They love that. But
I feel like I have to learn to make donuts now. Like you've just convinced me.
There's a recipe on his website that says the best donut recipe ever. Yeast donuts.
Yeasted donuts. So I have a cake donut, which is like those old school ones, which are great too. There's a time and a place for that. These yeasted ones, I really labored on this recipe and messed around with it a bunch of times. And it takes almost all day. Like the key is you have to let it rise twice. It's almost 3 times, but that makes it so soft. They're incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Sarah loves baking. So I feel like this is a great task for you, Sarah.
What's your go-to?
Baking, cookies, chocolate chip cookies. And like, this might be a sore spot, but before we get into that, I will tell you last year,
I know what you're going to say.
I made these palmiers. Oh my God. And I do it because I think making pastry is important. And it's so particular, right? It's just like certain types of breads. You have to be patient. You have to time things. And so I think it's a good practice to learn to do these things. So every couple of years, I make myself go through the process of it. I hate making palmiers. It literally takes 2 to 3 days, basically. But I do them.
Know what palmier is.
It's like the elephant ears. It's a French pastry.
Oh, I know. Yes, 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 yes.
But you had
Thomas
to
Keller makes it, but you have to do like 8 folds and you have to wait 8 hours between each one. And so like it takes
Crazy.
days. And then you have to like you have to cut them
Oh,
precisely. So there's
yeah.
like measuring tapes, the whole thing. So I don't like making pastries at all, but I do have amazing patience when it comes to baking. And like the New York Times chocolate chip cookies, those you have to let set for 24 hours. It's worth it. And like,
After baking?
no, after
Like
you make the
bake.
dough
Okay, in the fridge or just in
in the fridge. Yeah.
the fridge? Yeah.
But like if you want chocolate chip cookies, you make the dough and then you're just looking at it and you have to just look at
Yeah.
it for 24 hours. Like that takes
no one
patience.
wants that.
Yeah. So I
So
have
I'm
a question for you. Is it
yeah.
about for you like the making of the cookie or the chocolate chip cookie? Is it the process or is the end result that you like more? Like for me, it's all about the process. Like I would much rather make dinner for people and not eat.
Yeah, I love baking and I love cooking. So I'm with you on
But
that.
you love to eat it as well.
I will say specifically with chocolate chip cookies, just that one specific thing. I am so particular and have been narrowing down exactly what I like and adjusting recipes and getting like,
Yeah.
so that is just like a lifelong passion for me. So I do, when it comes to chocolate chip cookies, really care about the end result. But no, for the rest, it's like the actual process of cooking and feeding other people. Like that is like my greatest joy.
Totally. You got to try these donuts.
I know. Well,
We'll
now
have to
I've got
make
them
them.
like this week. I'm going to make them.
It's all staple stuff. There's nothing crazy in there, but I think you'll like them.
I'm like, you're like saying, let it rise 3 times. It's all day. I'm like, this sounds exactly like how I want to spend my day.
Yeah.
What else is there to do right now? Make donuts at home. The reason I don't love baking so much, and I do like to cook, but I like to look at a recipe and then see what it is or what's in it. And then I'm like, I'll just make my own version up.
Yeah.
And that makes me happy because I don't like following directions. I find it very tedious and it ruins the process for me sometimes.
Totally. The thing with baking, like the more and more you bake, you can start baking like that as well, where you're like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing here. Like I get an idea of what it is. It's like you can get a list of ingredients, but the more you do it, to be like, okay, I know what steps are going to follow. I just need to kind of see the ratios here.
Sarah's like that. Like she can make one cookie.
Yeah. Well, you get to know the textures that you need like doughs to be and things like that. And then you can just adjust.
Yeah.
Okay. So
now,
you're down.
The Newfoundlander in you that's like the baker. I feel like all Newfoundlanders are good bakers. My nan is just like a queen of, we used to get like all these Becel butter jars sent to us in the mail, stacked with Christmas cookies, like so many tarts and squares, and we had it all. So I'm sure.
Well, so that's one of the things, because now when I go, so I have just my mother in Newfoundland now, and we don't have any other family there. So we don't get this like Christmas goodie kit that we used to get growing up. So now I make them all. I make like 10 different cookies for Christmas because I'm not getting them. And it's such a thing. Yes.
You do. You get the tin, all the different kind of cookies and shapes. My grandmother used to do that a lot too. She was Cape Breton. I feel like they love to make that, the squares and the fudge and all the treats.
They can bake. Cape Bretoners can really bake.
So is there anything you don't like to cook, or you kind of just depends on the day and the mood?
You know what? Like I'm not a big fan of like cooking steaks or like big pieces of protein are not my thing. I've never been, it's like I never feel comfortable like cooking a steak, to be honest. Those I like eating them, but I don't eat them that often, but I'd rather someone else make them. It's not something I feel super comfortable with. But overall, I just like the challenge of cooking things. As long as I don't have to do it in a competition format, like I'll kind of cook whatever and just go with it. But yeah, I'd say like big pieces of protein are not my bailiwick.
I'm with you on that. Fair. One thing I want to know, because I feel like everyone has this, and Ashley, I'd love to hear from you too. Have you ever had like a meal fail? Just something you've made that has just gone horribly wrong. I always love these stories. I feel like they're such good learning experiences.
Oh man, there's some that are like haunting. Where do we even begin? So we've had so many. Like there's fun ones where it's like I remember the first time I tried sourdough. I tried it was a day, like multiple day. I was cutting every corner and it just did not work out. But I remember like Jess and I I think we had a friend over too, and like I had the cast iron Dutch oven, and they're like, don't open until the end, like get ready. And we're just like, ready to go, and like open it up, and they're like, the steam's gonna come out, and like you'll see the beautiful top, and like we opened it up and it was totally flat and burnt.
Oh
So that
no.
was like a really sad moment. But there's like so many from the catering world. We like in catering, we had a really, really demanding client, and it was down at the Alexander Keith's Brewery, and we had like 200 people from out of town that were coming in, and like at that point, myself and my team were pretty good at like, okay, 200 people, we know how much food they're going to want, but we didn't know, you just never know the appetites of the people that are going to come, and the group was like big men with big appetites, and they almost cleared us out within the first like 10 minutes of a 2.5 hour event. It was like one of the most insane,
they were hungry
ever, where it was not necessarily a fail around like I tried to make something and it fell apart or like didn't work. It was more so like the client screaming at me 10 minutes in because there's no food left, and it was me leaving the event, jumping in a rental car, going to Superstore, buying like a ton of those rotisserie chickens, like chorizo, like whatever I could, and we just hacked it all up and just like kept on pumping the food out. It was mortifying, but we pulled it off. But it was like, those are the moments of catering that like the client, no matter what happens in catering, the client doesn't give a fuck what you're doing, what you have to do to make it done, but just get it done. Like we're paying you well, figure this out. I don't care. Those moments are, I know all caterers have like a list of these things that just go terribly wrong, but you can't control variables. This is like part of it. It's live cooking, but it's also logistics, and you could blow a fuse or, it's nightmarish. There's
I'm getting like afraid as you're describing that.
It's so funny because whenever we have people over or there's family dinners with a lot of people, we end up buying so much food because I'm always terrified that we're going to run out of food. And then there's so much food left over, but it's probably the one time you don't have enough and people come and they are hungry.
Yeah. It's like my biggest fear, my same thing. It's like not having enough food to me is one of the most disrespectful things that you could ever do to someone. So yeah, it gives me sweat. Like my hands are now like sweating.
Yes, I'm anxious.
The memory. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
Sarah, what about you?
Any meal fails? Oh yeah. I've got this one. Oh my God. And this is just like a perfect example of too many cooks in the kitchen. And I was with two of my best friends in Newfoundland, VK and Amy, and we were making pad thai, but it's just like everyone was putting their own twist on it. It took us forever to make it because we like made the sauce from scratch, everything. And then by the time, well, it didn't take forever, but it was probably like an hour of cooking. And we finally go and have it, and it was disgusting. Like it tasted horrible, but it was like, at this point, it was like 9:00 at night. We've been cooking for the last like hour and a half. There were bamboo shoots in there, but which I didn't want because they seemed disgusting to me. And then they were overcooked, so you like couldn't chew them. It was like somehow it was just like too many flavors and too many twists by every person, and it ended up being the most disgusting thing I've ever tasted.
There's nothing worse than overcooked stuff.
Yeah, I think pad thai is one of those things that's really hard to recreate. I saw like a meme recently. It was like, make your own pad thai. Go spend $70 in ingredients to save $15 to make something essentially taste worse than what you get the drift. But it's a hard thing to make. I've tried many times and never.
Now I just want pad thai right now. So bad. It's so good.
It's also one of those things that's like, we don't have, like, I haven't been like to a lot of different Asian countries. So and I haven't cooked there. Right. And so one of the things I love to do when I travel is to go and take cooking lessons and cook with people, because you start to learn how to use the ingredients and the spices properly. Whereas like, I have no context or reference point for for like Asian cooking. Same thing with Middle Eastern. I've started to try like some Middle Eastern cooking this year, but it's like weird when you haven't been exposed to that cuisine because you don't know how to use things and like
it's context. Yeah, it's hard not to understand. Yeah, you just don't have context or starting points. Yeah, totally.
To like adjust or like free ball it at all.
Yeah.
Ash, what about you? Have you had any major fails?
Not that I can honestly think of, because I don't go that crazy. I do stick to what I know, but I definitely can recall memories of baking and forgetting or trying to cut a corner, like forgetting baking soda or baking powder, which like you can't.
It's very
and
important.
not intentionally, or I just screwed up the ratio and they didn't turn out. But I leave that to Jeff, my husband now, because he has way more patience and follows directions where I don't. I just look at it and I'm like, I can do that. But you really do have to follow directions in baking if you don't know how to bake.
One of the questions I had for you, Andy, is what region like of the world, like what type of food right now is like inspiring you? Are you really interested in?
We're on like a shoulder season, so I feel like it's changing right now. It's almost like coming back home. It's because the markets here are getting fired back up. We've got the peas, the fiddleheads, all of that starting to come back. So it's here. Like this is what I feel I'm really excited about for summertime. A lot of seafood, shellfish, fresh market veg. I'm just coming out like a major Middle Eastern kick.
Ooh.
I love Middle Eastern food. It's one of my favorite cuisines, and where like I'd spent a lot of time with Andrew El-Khoury on the show, and then even after the show, kind of learning more. I just, like you had said, I got more context where he's cooked Syrian food. He has a really interesting perspective the way he looks at food. So he's born and raised in Cape Breton, outside of Sydney, Cape Breton, but his mom is from Syria. So he has these like amazing stories that he's tying in with the cuisine as well. So I feel like that gave me more context, and a lot of it just comes down as knowing how to shop. That's like the biggest thing too, is going to local grocers. So there's an awesome Middle Eastern grocer on the corner of Agricola and North. And you go in there and it's just amazing. They have so many cool spices, pickles, nuts, cheeses, all sorts of really interesting stuff. So it's just, I have a couple different cookbooks that I really like. I have an Israeli one, I have a Lebanese one, Palestinian, and then I'll just kind of look at their recipes in there and just use that as a way to get introduced to different ingredients. And then once I understand it, like, oh, maybe I could use this in these following ways.
I think it's called Mid East Food Center or Cafe or something. Anyway.
Yeah, it's so good. What cookbooks are you using right now? Because I'm discovering Middle Eastern food. So this is so fascinating to me. Because there's an
amazing one that I love. I think it's called Sababa, Sababa. Okay. What's her name? She's an Israeli chef, and she actually, I just gotta look it up one sec, because there's a really funny story with this Sababa. Adina Sussman. So that's her name. Beautiful cookbook. It's gorgeous. And then I was following her, reading up on her. I'd like sent her a message on Instagram, and she got back to me, and I was so stoked on it. And then I saw she was in lockdown with Christy Teigen and John Legend. She was their cook. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is crazy.
Next lockdown, Andy.
That's so cool.
There's another Palestinian one that I have that has really, really gorgeous breads that I've cooked out of quite a bit. All of the Oltegenli, I'm gonna butcher that one. Oltegeni. This is embarrassing. I forget. They're a major franchise, all cooking Middle Eastern food. He has a master class. Their stuff is, I'm gonna say it's basic, but it's not. It looks very basic, but like there's so many different ingredients in it. But that's an incredible cookbook series. Plenty's one of them. Simple's another.
I have his upstairs. Flavors one, I think. We'll link them in the show notes so people can find them if they want.
Yeah.
Ooh, thank you for sharing those, because I love that. It's and it's nice just to hear how you get exposed to a new region, because I think it's like, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, that's how I kind of got into cooking as well. Like I've always, even right now, I have like stacks of cookbooks. Always, for years, I've had on my bedside table. That's what I read before bed. Like the David Chang Momofuku one is kind of old now, but like that was my Bible. I wanted to be David Chang so badly when I was working at Salesforce. So cookbooks were a major inspiration for me to get into food. So that's a great one. I've got tons of them that I really like. There's a new one that I just got sent. Have you guys either of you been to the Inn at Bay Fortune PEI?
No, but I want to go this summer, but I don't know if that's going to happen. It's always booked.
We booked it. It's incredible. But they just came out with a cookbook for the inn, and it's spectacular. It's the best food experience I've ever witnessed, been a part of. Like, it's gorgeous.
I've heard such good things that just the whole property and everything in general is amazing.
We're going to have to go at. Have you been to Fogo?
Research, Sarah.
No.
Because they do their guest experience is also like they bring their guests out foraging for their food, which I always laugh at because I'm like, you're spending $1,800 a night and then you're out foraging your own food. But it does create like a really nice experience.
Totally. Yeah.
And you're not foraging all the food, obviously.
Yeah.
You're just like getting the experience.
Part of the
The inn is cool because you go there, they have like the fires all outside. You started off with cocktail hour, but you get led through their farm. But you can tell that Michael Smith was on TV because everything's designed, and his wife is like a designer. They've designed it through the lens of the viewer. So you can tell everything's just so thought through, and it's so beautiful, and there's great cocktails. You're walking through the farm, they're like picking stuff and you're eating it right there. And then you come back and it's oyster hour. And so it's unlimited oysters for an hour. They put frozen Bloody Mary on top. You're just getting drunk, slamming oysters, and then the feast starts. It's one of the greatest like culinary things ever, and they just rep like what is PEI so well.
I love PEI so much, Sarah. We're gonna have to keep our eyes open.
I know. I'm just
for some availability, and we're hightailing it to PEI.
Surely we can expense it as a research trip.
Who cares at this point? We're going.
We'll book a bunch of podcasts.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be so fun. Well, before we get into our favorite, well, I wouldn't say our favorite, but the funnest part of the show, Andy, what's lighting you up right now?
What's lighting me up?
What are you excited about?
What am I excited about? I am fired up on, like, from a business perspective or just in life?
In your life.
It could be anything.
Whatever.
I'm fired up because right now, my wife and I feel like this is a very difficult time for a lot of people. And my wife and I right now have two businesses that are kind of taken off. And it's kind of interesting. And we're both working. I mean, I'm in her office right now. Like, she has an office downstairs. I work in the kitchen. Our kids are home. And both businesses are kind of firing on all cylinders. And it's like, holy shit, like, we're doing this right now. And our kids are running around. And this seems healthy. And it's busy, but it's not too busy. So I feel really excited about what these businesses in this house are going to turn into. Like, I feel really very fortunate. But also really excited just to like push this and just ride the wave as much as we can.
That's amazing.
I love hearing that. That's so nice and cool. And yes, we're excited for you.
It is so interesting when you think about the transition of like fully working from home, being in lockdown. You're like, oh, well, I mean, you have two children to add on top of it, but you realize, shit, I can actually do this from my home. And I can keep things moving. But yeah, Sarah and I don't have the extra distractions, but we're sending all the good vibes to you and Jess for you guys and your kids at home during school.
We can almost, it's tough having here. I don't want to romanticize it in the slightest because it's a fucking grind, but in some ways it holds you accountable, where like right now I'm the lead during the day, the lead parent during the day, but like Jess is just so focused down here right now. When it's the same thing. It's like, if I'm not with the family, there's no relaxing time during COVID. Like, it's you parent all the time or you work all the time. But it's like, whenever you're not parenting, you're just like, okay, well, if I'm not parenting, I better work my ass off and be productive as hell. So it's just an interesting period of time where I feel like we're both moving the needles. But yeah, it's a shit show having the kids around all the time. It's mentally hard. But
we feel for you.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. So now, before we wrap, we are going to play a round of Queeniegrams, which is our made up game. And it is very easy, Andy. All you do is pick a number between 1 and 111. And I'm going to ask you a question and we're all going to take a turn. We'll all go around.
Oh, fun. I'm going to go for number 13.
13. Ooh. I was going to say this. I love when people pick 13 because it's always like the unlucky number. But in sports, when people used to choose 13 as their number, I had like so much respect for that.
That was the sports number.
Yeah. Was it? There you go.
Yeah.
What sports did you play?
Played hockey, and then I played rugby as well, and golf and stuff. But those were the two ones that I actually played.
Love that. All right, Andy, what is your favorite 5-cent candy?
I recently took my daughter to Freak Lunchbox. So it's the first time like revisiting that world, and it's been a long time. My favorite one is sour watermelon.
Ooh, so good.
That
It's
is a good
one.
choice.
That's like a classic.
Yeah,
It's
that's
nice.
good.
It doesn't have too much of the watermelon flavor. It's not too sour, but it's sour enough.
Almost like the sour cherries, like that kind of. Those are a
That's
little
a
more sour.
little bit more sour, but still
Yeah.
nice. I like the texture more of the watermelon, where the sugar's almost like pressed into it a little bit more.
Mhm.
Texturally, I find it more interesting.
I love your take on
I'm
this.
dying to know what you guys think.
This is good.
The answer of a chef. Ash, what's yours?
I kind of have two. One of them is
hear
maybe
it.
a less popular one, but remember the marshmallow bananas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved those. And I'd have to say, like, tie for first would be Sour Patch Kids.
Ooh.
I like the sour.
I'm not into Sour Patch Kids that much, but I will tell you, okay, so my favorite 5-cent candy, first of all, in Newfoundland at the corner store next to my high school, they had 1-cent candy. I don't think they exist
Same.
anymore, to be honest.
You
But
used to get a huge bag for like nothing.
and I used to get the belly buttons. I really liked those.
What are those?
They're just like gelatin. They're tiny. So like
I
here,
hate the name.
belly buttons. Okay.
Like as a candy, it sounds
I
disgusting.
want to talk to the marketing department.
Yeah, the 1-cent candy. I'm sure they're investing a lot in the naming strategy. But you can't get like loose candies in Halifax unless you go to Freak Lunchbox, which is awesome and I love them. But like that's something I miss about Newfoundland is where you can just go to the corner store and get like the mixed grab bag. Like I want to see a bag that's been tied by hand by someone. That's really what I'm looking for.
The little brown bags that you fill up yourself.
I would take actually Cafe Good Luck does have those. The other one that is actually my favorite is they're like these blue raspberry swirls and it's like a cream with like a blue raspberry flavor mixed in and they're round. You can get them at Freak Lunchbox, but those are my favorite.
So good. So good. Not in the same lane, but if I'm going to Freak Lunchbox, something like that I go crazy for are Jelly Bellies. Those are like my kryptonite. I'm not a big like sweet guy, but Jelly Bellies, oh man, they're good. Jelly beans.
Ooh, yeah, I'm with you there.
So many interesting flavors.
And I have two other candy tidbits I just want to throw in here before we keep going, because this is a very important topic, obviously. If you have to buy candy at the grocery store, you should buy the Jolly Rancher candies. The ones, the sours are amazing. They actually taste just exactly like Jolly Ranchers, but also the non-sour ones are good.
But
if you have to, yeah, they are like
a Starburst. But
no, they're like candy. So like the texture of like the watermelon or like the cherry blasters, but they're like Jolly Rancher flavored, and they are the best if you have to buy them from the store.
Okay, good tips.
Now the Jolly Rancher watermelon is not for me. Too watermelon forward.
I don't think I've had that.
Well, Andy, you know what? You know what? We might just have to get you some of these Jolly Rancher candies and drop them off and get your tasting review on them.
Yeah, do an Instagram live just on tasting candy.
We might come on with you. We might have to do a live with you.
Sarah
on
loves
the Jolly
candy.
Rancher. You know what? I think this is just going down. All right, Ash, pick a number.
110.
110. We got a fresh batch up here. Let's see.
Yeah, we've got some new ones.
Date night in or date night out?
Well, right now I'm going to say date night out just because it's not an option for us here in Nova Scotia. But it depends. I mean, I've been married for almost 11 years, so going out is nice. We work together and we're in lockdown, so I feel like going out would be like optimal right now.
Where would be your ultimate date night out? Andy, these questions are
right
coming
now.
Next, so.
Oh, where would I want to go? I want to go somewhere, maybe the Highwayman, because I walked by there today and it made me really sad to see like pitch black in there. So good.
How
about you? Or La Fresca. Like I feel like something like loud and Italian. I like to give two answers apparently for everything.
That's all. Yeah. Andy, what about you? Date night in or date night out?
Date night out for sure. I would give a lot of money to go to Dear Friend right now for like a Negroni and some oysters. That's what I'm badly.
Cocktails.
Or like Aperol Spritz on their back deck. That's what I want. I'm like jonesing for that. I want Aperol.
I love, okay, Aperol Spritz is probably my favorite drink.
We
And
also, yeah, okay, keep going.
no, but
Sorry.
we haven't been, Sarah, to Dear Friend. I feel like that is the
No.
only place we haven't been in. When things get the green light, we're
Yeah, I
going.
know.
We're going to do a
So
Dartmouth crawl. But I just discovered the Aperol Sour, which is, I think, maybe my favorite cocktail I've ever had.
Go on. What is it?
Yeah, what's in that?
So it's gin and Aperol, and it's just like a whiskey sour then. So there's like an egg white.
Cool.
I'm sure there's probably some simple syrup in it, but it was actually, I really like whiskey sours. But the Aperol Sour was actually maybe my favorite cocktail I've ever had.
Interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I believe you.
just a side note. I always choose date night in. I love cooking with people. And that's
Yeah.
like,
But
but
like
like
on
I
a
also don't
first
have
date?
kids running around. No, not on a first date. That's like a very big commitment, but I'm also not going out for dinner on a first date. So, but it's like if I like someone and want to spend time with them, then if we're past the
You can
early
make it
stages-
an affair by having them over,
No, but I
get them
also
to
like
taste the
cooking with
sauce,
people.
put it in their mouth for
Yeah.
them,
Oh, very romantic.
make your beignets or whatever it was.
All right. Well, Ashley, you're on a different date night in than I am. So anyways, enough. We're moving on. I'm going to go. If you could eat, I'm taking 108. If you could eat any cake flavor, what would it be? I, for some reason, and I don't actually think the flavor profile is different, but I really like, if I have to have cake, marble cake for some reason.
I have to say, these questions are perfectly suited for having Andy on. They're all
Well,
like
I picked
food
this
related.
Yeah. I don't know. Andy, what would you pick if you could have any cake flavor?
Any cake. I think that, you know what? I'm going down memory lane here for sure, and I'm going a Dairy Queen ice cream cake. If I'm going cake, that's what I want.
Andy, do you know
I want
us? Like, Sarah and I are putting it out there in the world that Dairy Queen is going to be like our sponsor someday because we love Blizzard and ice cream cakes.
Oh, it's
I
so
only
good.
get ice cream cake. And once Katie, I love her, who I live with, bought me a beautiful layers cake for my birthday. It was such a beautiful cake. And after I just like very politely said to her, I was like, I really appreciate this. Thank you. Like, I know you spent a lot of money on this. It's like, can you just buy me an ice cream cake in the future?
Yeah. It can be a log shape. It can.
Logs are
Yeah.
great. Even a treats a pizza, like anything ice cream from Dairy Queen. Sarah, my birthday is in 2 weeks, so wink, wink.
I know you told me though that you want a bunch of different cakes. So
Well, no, I love, my mom is a very good baker and cook, but she makes the best homemade, just like a classic homemade chocolate cake with boiled icing. And to me, that just reminds me of like my youth growing up.
Yeah.
So I can't have that because she lives an hour away right now. But
well, you can. Maybe I'll talk to Susan. I'll make it for you, and we'll get the ice cream cake.
and she puts sprinkles on top, like it's like I'm 10. It's great. And ice cream cake. Okay, let's do both.
Oh, what?
I'm with
So,
you.
well, tell us right now, what cake flavors do you want? Because this is going to be your birthday cake request. Is
What
that
I
you
just
want?
said, like
Okay.
like a nice, like I don't want a fancy ass chocolate cake. Like I just want like a nice one that's like very fluffy and light, boiled icing.
Susan Sampson, I'm calling you up, and I'm putting in my Dairy Queen order.
Who doesn't love boiled icing though? It's so good.
So good. Like a good Irving Big Stop icing. They do the big boiled icing there. It's delicious.
Do
Oh
they?
yeah, they make like the best pies, the best cakes.
Yeah,
the Jello with whipped cream.
Yep.
Can we all just say what our favorite Irving Big Stop meal is? Because that place has such a warm spot in my heart. Like I
Clubhouse
love
and
going to the
fries.
Irving Big Stop.
What's some fries? I think hot turkey sandwich with fries.
Oh, that's a good one.
With waffle cut fries.
Ooh.
Andy knows. Ash, what's your go-to Irving Big Stop?
Well, I
should
haven't.
be a Queenie Graham
I said mine
question.
was Clubhouse. That like when I was younger, I always got a Clubhouse or chicken nuggets and fries. But I do love a Clubhouse.
In Newfoundland, we used to go on volleyball tournaments every weekend because there's no like you can't play there's no school system in most of the towns. It's like one school. So you go away, and we used to get every weekend. I would get a turkey soup and grilled cheese sandwich from the Big Stop.
Ooh.
Turkey soup. I went on a huge rant on Instagram about this recently. It's one of the best foods that exists. I really believe that. Like a good or a well executed turkey soup is, I don't know, there's something in that I think is one of the great meals that exists.
I'm with you. And
yeah.
the Big Stop has nailed it.
Sarah, we're going to have to go. No, they're not. They know those men that are coming in there, Andy, that were at your event, they are eating at the Big Stop and they're hungry. So they know how to deliver the goods.
Yeah. I love that.
They should do a live from the Big Stop.
We will.
I'm adding it to the list. That'll be our first.
Like, we're going to get like gravy and fries, every dessert, maybe even a milkshake. I used to love a milkshake.
We'll bring you in. You can just comment on it.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Well, this has been so amazing. And it's so exciting to see your journey. Like Sarah said, just kind of going from, the last 3 years, you've just exploded. And now that you're going to be on the Masterchef Canada finale, we're super excited. We'll be rooting for you. This is going to come out just a few days before that, but we'll be cheering you on.
Amazing.
Andy, before we part ways, can you tell us where people can find you online?
You can find me on Instagram, is where I mainly hang out, at Andy's East Coast Kitchen. And then my website is www.theeastcoastkitchen.com. That's where all my recipes are. And between those two spots, you'll find me.
Oh, I just have to say in closing that Sarah and I got duped by one of your contest trolls. Do you remember that? I got a notification that was like, "You've won the Andy's East Coast Kitchen giveaway" or something. I was like,
hate those trolls that do that. It just ruined the whole experience.
It happens all the time, I think, with giveaways. But hopefully you have another one soon, and maybe we'll win something, Sarah.
Yeah.
Andy, thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. We loved chatting with you tonight.
Thank you.
Oh, so fun. Now I'm hungry. Now I want Big Stop. I'm driving to Enfield. I can't.